All right, so today I was working for about 45 minutes on a book I'm writing about resilience, and the introduction that I was getting through kind of left me stumped for a little bit because I I consider myself a fairly resilient person. I've gone through some difficulties in the army, some difficulties in business and life, and have always, for the most part, come through on top. And excuse me, what I tried to do with this intro was I was going to try to give some context and try to dive deep into uh, how to develop resilience or how to become a more resilient person. That's the whole point of the book. But I was left with a little bit of um, trying to understand what were the steps that built resilience in my life. And if I came down to the truth and honest of it was, I think maybe a huge part was I had a couple of parents and even grandparents, both seemingly all six that were involved in my life, supported me as best as I can say it. They helped me to develop belief in myself. But then as I dove into can it be as simple as being resilient comes down to believing in your own ability to get through something. Um, and I kind of played around with that idea in my head. I'm trying to look up something I wrote on my iPad here so I can. And what I kind of did was I dove into kind of, I shouldn't say that. What I think I decided was that helping individuals develop, a belief system is probably paramount to understanding how to become resilient. Or one of the most important things that comes along with being resilient is learn to believe with yourself. So then it took me to kind of go down this rabbit hole of brainstorming. You know, what could we do guidance wise or mentoring wise, or what kind of program could we develop to help people build self belief, I guess. And I kind of just started thinking about all these steps, and I put them in order. And we may one day examine this or go through it. I'll put them in the show notes underneath here. But I think that these and 10, it happened to be 10, right? These 10 things, if we could apply them consistently throughout your life or throughout your journey, it would help develop your self belief. It would help develop you into a person that believes that they accomplish things. And I'm already, as I'm talking and I'm reading through these, I'm going to talk real briefly on them, and I don't want to take long, but I just want to get this out. I wanted to put this out to the ether and kind of to the universe, and get your guys's reaction to it. Um, but I mean, maybe number one, and this is maybe goes back to Sun Tzu's Art of War, which is know thyself, right? Um, know thyself, or self-awareness, which is what I wrote it as, right? And I think that some steps that we can take, I mean, it's well and good to just say you need to learn who you are, you need to learn who you are. How do we do that? How do we get a better grasp and idea of what kind of human or what kind of person we are, what our motivations are, what our desires are? And I think that I found a lot of success fairly recently, the last 18 months or so, with journaling. And it's not so much journaling as here's what happened to me today. It was much more sit down and write how I feel about myself in this moment. Whether I don't choose a certain time, I don't necessarily do it in the morning, I don't necessarily do it in the evening. I think my oldest daughter is way better at journaling consistently at night. I tend to, when I feel like it, write it down. But just reading unabashedly your own opinion of yourself and for yourself, I think is a big deal. So we could work on those things. It turns into a barrage of self reflection exercises. Why do I think this? Why am I thinking that? Being able to ask yourself those things, but with a very fine line of not judging what the answers to those things are. Just treating it as like, here's how I feel in the moment, and you look back on it. But I think that's going to help self awareness. I think if you are if you are incapable of calming your mind, if you're incapable of focusing, practicing probably daily motivation, some sort of daily meditation, whether it's guided, whether it's yourself, and And that kind of comes down to learning how to control your brain. And it's a big step. I mean, those are two. I mean, the purpose behind all those exercises is we want to kind of get to where we could understand your own strengths or our own strengths and understand our weaknesses. And it should connect you with things that you're scared of, what you're passionate about. But all this stuff could be coming out on paper on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. And it's only going to help you know yourself better. And that's kind of end of the goal. We got to be there. We have to know who we are before we can start to build belief in that person. And then another thing I found helps me is I'm very naturally driven to setting these big, grand goals. Like I want to be a millionaire by age 37. I want to be XYZ. I want to do this. I want to look like Chris Hemsworth and Thor. But what we forget is every gigantic goal is accomplished by small baby steps to get to that goal. Even if I don't look like Chris Hemsworth, if I set a goal to look that way, and every day I take one step closer, you never know, maybe by my 45th birthday, I'll be in it, right? And so I think something we can do to help build self-belief for people that don't have it, maybe you've been kicked and you've been shit on and you've been told that you're no good your whole life, is for yourself, if you can start setting some small goals, some things that are, I don't want to say easy wins, but good wins. And we keep stepping and we keep stepping and we keep stepping, it's going to be good. So, the activities for that number two, setting small goals, is list out short-term goals, celebrate the wins when you get there, and even go back and look at things that you wanted to accomplish and did, and congratulate yourself for that. Don't be afraid to tell yourself you did a good job. Then this kind of leaks directly into number three, which would be positive reinforcement. I've told this story to my members a bunch. When I wake up in the morning, I have a very set. I swing out of bed, I get dressed, use the bathroom, brush my teeth, and then I go right to a cup of coffee. I get my cup of coffee. That's about 13 minutes after I wake up, and about 15 to 17 minutes, I'm walking out the door to my car. It's dark out. It's 4:15 in the morning, and I 100% of the time take a deep breath and soak in how grateful I am to be awake, how grateful I am to have my health, how nice the morning feels, how awake I feel, and how ready I am to walk into my gym at 5 o'clock in the morning and coach 2 classes in a row. I've been doing that for literally a decade or more. And I'm telling you, it's so habitual now, but it sets my tone and sets my attitude for what I'm going to do, how I'm great today. It's positive reinforcement, kids. That's all it is. I read a book when I was 24. So this is like 21 years ago. I read this book, and I can't remember it. I've told the story a dozen times to friends. I wish I could remember it. But in the book, the author talks about how he wakes up, and every day that he wakes up, he decides to be happy. And it was the first time I'd ever thought that. I think I've generally, up to that point in time, had lived my life as an optimist, but there were certainly days where I'd wake up and complain, and certainly days where I'd wake up and be upset. And I kind of figured this out. At that moment, this blinding flash of light kind of hit me and said, listen, if I can wake up and I can choose to be in a good mood and choose to be happy, why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I choose? So that's part of it, right? Affirmations, gratitude statements. I don't use a lot of affirmations. Some people find a ton of success with it. That's why I wrote it in here. But my self-belief is I'm good there. What I really work on is being grateful. I wrote something about this on Facebook a few days ago. My default is not gratitude. I have to work at it. I want to be more grateful than I am. I am grateful, I think, at my heart, but maybe I don't express it enough that I feel the gratitude seeping through. And that's where I want to be. I want to be operating. If you're operating in a state of gratitude all the time, then it's hard not to be happy. It's actually impossible not to be happy, right? It's impossible not to be happy. So that's number one, self-awareness. Number two, set small achievable goals. We're going to keep reinforcing this. Number three, positive reinforcement. Number four, this is one I'm big on, and so many people I've dealt with, so many mentors I've had in my life, so many times I've experienced this. Number four is to develop a growth mindset if you do not have one already. You've got to understand that what we're competing for is not a fixed amount of wealth, right? The pie is not the same size, right? The pie is ever growing. So You've got to be approaching everything you do with how can I get better at this? No matter how good, no matter how great something happens, how can we improve on it? And it's not meant to look at you like you're not good enough. It's meant to look at you like you're not supposed to be good enough, right? You're not ever good enough. And that's not a bad thing. That's an exciting thing, right? It's not a sad, like I'm never going to be good enough. It's a, how can I work to be as good as I possibly can? And once I get there, how can I go to the next level and be better than that and be better than that? Because how sad if at 45 years old, I get to the end and I'm as good as I'm ever going to be. How sad is that? It's super sad. It's super, it's literally the scariest thing I think I could imagine is to get to a point where can't get any better, right? So you've got to develop that hunger to improve yourself, because it makes you better at everything. It makes you a better parent, a better husband, a better lover, a better, and I'm speaking for myself, a better person in general. The better you are, the better you raise those up around you, and it just continues, right? So fall in love with the idea of developing a growth mindset. Now, how can we do that? You can read about it. You can listen about it. You can discuss stories with friends about people who have had the growth mindset or have not had it. I mean, what am I like? Yeah, encourage the idea of learning from failures, right? When you're gonna fail, I've failed, still failing, right? But when you look back on those failures and you learn from them, that becomes an opportunity to grow, not an opportunity to shut down and quit and give up, right? And again, I'm trying to come up with activities for each thing and coming up with a purpose that I wrote them much more concisely than I'm speaking them. So I hope I'm not boring you. But you know, the purpose of the growth mindset is kind of simple. It's to understand skills that you can use to develop continually and continue to get better at. All right, that's a lot. Growth mindset. I'm telling you, big deal. Get in there. Right. Number 5, skill development. This is kind of a no-brainer, right? If you want to be better at stuff, you got to get better at what you do. Whether it's speaking, whether it's podcasting, which I'm terrible at looking at the camera. Been practicing. This is the first one. We'll see how it goes. Ooh, that's loud. You know, with this wonderful thing you're looking at right now, the internet, there's just no end to the courses you can take, to the people you can possibly be influenced on without having to invest anything but your time. So take courses, sign up for workshops, go to seminars, find somebody that's doing what you want to do and shoot them a message, take them to coffee, ask them to come on a Zoom call with you to chat for an hour, offer to buy them dinner. I mean, there are so many things and so many people out there that are doing such a great job at this kind of stuff. And not this, at anything that has to do with developing skills, connect with them. Most people that are wherever you're going to be, like, let's pretend it, for me, I'm a CrossFit coach, that's a CrossFit box owner. Most people that are better at doing this than I am would be more than happy to have me contact them and ask them to sit down and talk for a little bit, and ask them if I could come watch them for a day run their box. They're going to love it. And you just kind of have to overcome that personal fear of asking for someone else's advice or asking for help, to help to improve. And this is pretty simple. The purpose of enhancing your skill set is it 100% is going to boost your self-confidence, which then is going to directly relate to boosting your self-belief, right? The more honestly confident you are, not boisterous and not posturing, but the more your self-belief is, all right? 5 skill development. Oof, we're halfway there. Whew, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought. Hope you guys are still hanging in there. So now, visualize success. This, I think, is important. I think this is important. The box that I'm sitting in, my CrossFit gym, I visualized before I even opened my first one. This is the second location. My first location had a 1,600 square foot training floor. This one has a 4,000 square foot training floor. I envisioned this box in my brain and even drew it in a notebook before I even had my old gym. And you can say what you want. You can joke about having a dream board, but it shit works, right? So when you visualize your success, there's a couple different ways. You can just, close your eyes and wing it and think about what you want your life like. I like thinking about my perfect day and how I'm going to wake up in the morning, what I'm going to be wearing when I get out of bed, what my bed looks like, where my room is located in the rest of the house, where my children's rooms are, how I walk through the house, how I start my coffee, how I go out, what car I'm getting into, what my new gym looks like. I tell this story in my head and get as much as I can. You can do that. You can use guided visualizations. There's tons of them on YouTube. You can create a vision board where you put up things that you want to accomplish and have it somewhere where you have to look at it daily. I mean, there's just no end to that kind of thing that you can do to visualize success. But it certainly works. It certainly puts that your brain, which is this magnificent machine, into thinking, how can I get there? How can I get there? How can I get there? And that's, let me take a little side note is when it comes to achieving things like that, your brain is super wicked. And this isn't me. This is from Tony Robbins, if I remember correctly. But you've got to think. You have to ask your brain questions that will help it get you to the answers you want to. So, for instance, if I wanted to own a Land Rover as a car, if I were to ask my brain, why can't I get a Land Rover? My brain is brilliant and it's going to give me all these answers. You don't make enough money. You don't really deserve it. X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. Whereas if I would flip the script on my brain and ask it a better question, and the better question is simple, instead of why can't I, if I were to ask my brain, how can I, then it just opens the floodgates for opportunities. Your mind is an amazing problem-solving machine. You ask it the right questions enough, it will show the answers, right? So visualize success, big deal. 7, find a mentor or coach. I just joined with a mentorship program for my CrossFit gym 6 months ago. It took me 10 years of operation before I pulled that trigger. I wish I had done it 10 years ago. I have nothing more to say than if you can find someone that is successful at doing what you've already done, and you can get them to help you do what you want. It's like it is the only fast forward steps for success. And that doesn't mean it's going to be fast, but it's going to be faster than you sitting around and figuring that shit out on your own. Find a mentor or coach. I mean, the purpose of that is simple. You're going to learn from someone who's already been there. It's that simple. Engage in continuous learning. This kind of goes back to what I'm looking for skill development, but it's just the idea of no matter how good you get, you can always be better. And it's a positive. It's not a negative. Surround with positivity. I think I probably knock off 8, 9 because I've kind of did it. And then 10, practice resilience. Now here's the fun part. How do you practice being resilient? Here's the simple answer to that is you're going to do shit that's hard and you're not going to shy away from it. This is sort of like that. Is it Brian Tracy that wrote that book called Eat That Frog? It might not be Brian Tracy. And look, here I am. I'm going to Google shit online. I've read so many things. It's not a Brian Tracy, is it? No. Brian Tracy has all the... If there were actually people watching me, the chat could tell me. But let me see. Let's see. Eat That Frog. It is Brian Tracy. Guess I know what I'm talking about. It's a great book. It's about doing your hardest thing first thing in the morning, basically, is eat the frog. It sucks. If you had to eat a frog every day, that'd be the worst part of your day. Wake up in the morning, eat the frog, the hard part's done. That might have been a bad summary of what the book's about, but you get the point, is that so do hard shit. That's how you become resilient, is doing hard shit. Now, choosing to do hard shit is tough. It's super tough. But that's it. We've got self-awareness, set small achievable goals, positive reinforcement, develop a growth mindset, skill development, visualize success, find a mentor or coach, engage in continuous learning, surround yourself with positive people in a positive environment, and just practice resilience, right? You can discuss and reflect on past challenges when you're practicing resilience, how they're overcome, and then engage in resilience building exercises like CrossFit or just like really, really hard workouts. Anyways, I've ran over way too long for today. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I'm excited for this first little podcast. Have a great rest of your Thursday. It is September 14th. We'll talk to you all soon.